So this is going to be a super quick, to the point video about how to protect yourself online, protecting your privacy and your security while browsing the internet. Now, there's a lot of things you can do to do this, and one of the major ways of doing that also is getting a VPN. But I won't cover VPNs today because VPNs are debatable in their usefulness, including that depending on which one you pick, you might actually be reducing your security. So it's a trust issue with VPNs. So we're going to skip that topic and we're going to get straight to how to make your browser work for you and protect your privacy. First of all, I can't speak for any other browser at this point, but Firefox is the way to go if you want to browse privately. There are other browsers like Tor, and there's also going to be the upcoming Maelstrom browser from BitTorrent, which may also provide better security and better privacy. But if you're just an average user and you want to have the best privacy, this is probably the way to go. Choose Firefox and choose extensions. So I'm going to just basically point out some of the extensions that I have here. I have a KeyPass, I have something called Cookie Whitelist, I have something called uBlock Origin, and I also have something that I just really found out about that is my new favorite thing. It's called uMatrix. Now what you don't see here is I also have NoScript. Now, but what I'm using NoScript for is I'm using NoScript for all of its features except for script blocking, because NoScript has a large number of special features for protecting you against cross-site scripting, click blocking or click hijacking, things like that, things that are really, really awesome. If you really look into it, NoScript has won quite a few awards for this. The things that NoScript does not do is when it comes to script blocking, it is a global script blocker. So it will block all scripts, and that can be really frustrating, as well as it's not really efficient, because now you've blocked all these scripts or you've whitelisted all the scripts, and now if you go to one site and you've whitelisted, say, like Facebook.net, which Facebook.net is where they add the like button to all the pages, and they're aware if you're logged in and they're aware of you visiting websites. Now you've just enabled it everywhere, and that's not great because you only really want to enable Facebook.net while you're visiting Facebook. Well, that's where uMatrix comes in, and it really, really does a good job of this. So what are the steps? Let's get through this. We're not here to debate about all the details. I just want to give you the straight to the point answers. Well, first of all, I think at a minimum, if you're someone that is not so inclined or is just like not really the most advanced, I would say go ahead and get something like uBlock Origin. It's an ad blocker, but it does provide a lot of additional protection. So this is kind of layer one. It's also very fast. It's now kind of replacing some of the older ad blockers like AdBlock Plus, which there was a fork of AdBlock Plus called AdBlock Edge. AdBlock Edge is now deprecated because of uBlock Origin. uBlock Origin is really fast. Made by the same, if I'm correct, I believe, being that it's open source, uMatrix is also kind of by the same general people, and they work well together. This is kind of for overall ad blocking. This is for everything else. So, phase one, uBlock Origin, it's great. And then probably the simplest one, which people have a really hard time with, and this is my favorite, is Cookie Whitelist. Back in the days of Internet Explorer and other browsers, cookies were not allowed by default. They were something that you opted in as you go. But over time, what people found out was that it just made the browsing experience more irritating, and so browsers kind of caved in and said, okay, well, we'll just allow cookies by default, and then you can turn them off. This is the wrong way to do things. This has always been the wrong way to do things, because basically it just says, hello, Internet, track me as much as you want. What you really, really want to do is have a whitelist that's not difficult to use. What you need to do is just assume that it's always blocking cookies. But if you come to a site like, I don't know, say YouTube, okay, so let's say, for example, YouTube in this case, what you're going to see is for YouTube, at least for me, you're going to see that there's this, that this has already been whitelisted. But I don't know, let's pick another website that I don't whitelist. Let's say like Bing as a search engine, okay? Bing, in this case, I'm not signed in or anything. and it's giving you this green button. So I could then whitelist this website. The cool thing about cookie whitelist is it gives you two ways of whitelisting. I can then whitelist the root domain, or I can add www, and I can allow always, or I can only allow for session. And so from that point on, cookie whitelist will specify specifics about, okay, I just want to be able to have this website function normally with cookies, versus if I'm visiting Facebook and I want to always be able to not have to worry about logging in or whatever, well, then I just click allow. I'm not going to do this right now. But as you can see, that's one way to do it. The other thing about cookie whitelist is you can kind of put it in this kind of risky mode, where if you enable it, from that point on, all cookies are allowed. But once you release it and then close the browser, those cookies are gone, which I think is also a nice way to do it. This seems like a lot of work, but the point is for sites that matter over time, like I was showing with YouTube, it just works. You might find there's some issues with cookie whitelist that, if you have different domains, like for example, you'll need to add a cookie for Google's accounts for it to function with YouTube, for example, which is a little more complicated. That is more of a pain in the butt. The other thing to do that you can do is you can use uBlock Origin to eliminate default cookie exceptions. This is probably the easier way to do it. Is you could get rid of cookie whitelist. I just like cookie whitelist because of its simplicity. I understand what it's doing. I understand why. uBlock Origin's current rules by default will automatically allow for cookies on first-party domains. I don't necessarily want that. I want to be able to explicitly specify. But with uBlock Origin, you can do cool things like you can add rules that you can change the default rule set so that it can say, I don't allow cookies by default at all. And that would actually negate even the need for cookie whitelist. But again, I still like cookie whitelist for a bunch of reasons, including some of its abilities to, like, how it manages. There's blacklisting as well as whitelisting. So that's another thing to consider as well. Anyway, so moving on. Cookie whitelist is an added bit of functionality, but it's probably one of the best things that you can add. It's really straightforward. It's exactly what browsers were supposed to do in the beginnings. But they just don't do anymore. So again, I highly recommend it. But if you didn't have cookie whitelist, then uBlock Origin and then uBlock Matrix can do the trick. They basically can do everything you need, and that's it, and you're done. So I'm highly recommending people check this out. If you have the time and energy to put some effort into your privacy, this is the way to go. It has some pretty good defaults out of the box. Like, for example, you'll see that it also includes some already existing blocking scripts that prevent these are an ad network from basically doing anything. In this case, it's showing you that there's ad.doubleclick.net is trying to do 2 iframes, or it's things like that. So these are things that it's protecting you against. It's very easy to see. You can enable and you enable a single item. You can do an entire column. You can do red or green an entire row. It's really easy once you get to understand it. When you've made any changes, they're considered temporary, and then you end up locking them in place when you're done, and so you can revert back to where you were. It doesn't throw them away. It just has it considered temporary. It's like a checkpoint per se is the way to go. So I probably rambled a little bit too long here. Again, these are my primary protections in browsing the web. Again, I've attempted to use a VPN before. It's great, but it does have its downsides. And just a quick review, I would say everybody try out uMatrix. If you don't want to get that complicated, use uBlock Origin. Definitely protect yourself against cookies. There's another plugin here that is considered okay. I've tried it. It's a little bit weird, and it kills your cookies off in weird ways. And that's also Privacy Badger. You can also check them out. But these are, I think, the easiest, simplest to manage. Also, for some of these websites that you visit often, I highly suggest turning off the strict blocking for this site. This seems to allow for like persistence of cookies a bit better. But everything else, yeah, I mean, it's great. And if anybody has any complaints about advertising and oh, well, this is how people make their money off advertising, well, that's fine. Then go ahead and enable, basically click the, turn this off for this website, and then you're supporting them. But for me, I'm trying to protect myself against being tracked by ad networks and things like that. That's what's important to me. So, all right, well, if you guys have anything else that you think is cool that you like that you use, especially if you think that's better than any of these, please let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. I mean, this used to be a much different list before, including having NoScript being my script blocker. But with UMatrix, I just feel like it's pretty much spot on. So thanks again. Hit like if you like this video. If you didn't like it, dislike it, whatever. And we'll see you next time.